6:20.
Okay.
Got signed up, hands off.
8 seconds, heads up.
I believe we're live.
Okay, we're all ready and we're all here. How about that? Everybody's here tonight. Good.
Wonderful.
Okay, so we've got a work session starting right now on some items that look like a book when we got them. It looked like a volume.
Yes, don't be scared of the book. The first 46 pages are basically just for your information. It's what we've covered before.
Yes.
I did have a chance to review the text of that with the city manager and the city attorney, and we're looking good. There was a few suggestions made on both ends, and but nothing that really upsets the apple cart or changes it.
Okay.
What I really wanted to do tonight, and I'm sorry I didn't number these pages, but if you go to after page 46 of 46, you'll see Article 9, B1 District Regulations, and I will try to go through that one at a time. Let everybody sort of get situated, make sure everybody's with us.
Article 9.
Is everybody there?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Are we getting that though? Let's see here. I think I'm on it. That's it, isn't it? I'm on it.
Okay.
Just took me forever there. Okay.
All right, very good. And I'll try to note when to turn the pages again. I'm sorry that the page numbers didn't get on here. The first article we're looking at tonight is probably the shortest article of all of them, B1 District Regulations. This is, if we had it up as an institutional district, this would be it. Mostly professional offices, public and semi-public uses, parking lots, public utilities. Very limited set of permitted uses. Of course, like everything else, you can apply for a conditional use using the procedures of 1-7, which is where we put all our conditional use information. Want to direct your attention to 9-2B. This is a new feature that's been, it's become apparent that we need to do this for a number of projects. We're starting to get pretty crowded along the Gateway, Victory Boulevard, and as well as With Creek Road. Worked with the engineer and with the city manager, and what we came up with was a traffic impact study being required for a new development or redevelopment that is projected to generate 100 or more additional peak hour trips based off the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual. The report is to include an introduction and summary, background information, proposed development site and nearby area, analysis of the existing conditions, and analysis of future conditions without the development. And
That mean? Could I have an example?
well, yeah. If you look at Victory Boulevard, let's say nothing else happens to it. What will the traffic look like in 5 years? I mean, will there be additional traffic just from increased population or what have you, or not? What we would generally expect to find is that if you have a new development versus no development, you're going to get a much larger spike in increased traffic than you would otherwise get. Site traffic distribution and assignment, analysis of future conditions with the development, recommended improvements, and non-inclusions. The city engineer does have the right to request traffic impact statements and safety studies for locations with less than 100 peak hour trips. More generally, that would just be trip generation rates and things of that nature.
Well, I'd like to know just kind of where this whole paragraph came from. I mean, where was it taken from? What other jurisdictions have this type of requirement on developments?
Well, this was again taken, this was originally something that we came up with in the wake of several large projects on West Creek Road, one being the warehouse, more recently the higher ground school next door, and the Starbucks that may eventually go there. We haven't seen plans yet, but we
So
understand that they're
we
going to do
didn't
it.
do this before,
We have not done it before, no.
And so I guess now after these three projects, we've decided that this is a requirement now, that it needs to be done. And I mean,
Yes.
unfortunately, this wasn't done prior to some of the other projects that were recently approved.
Correct.
Makes me wonder, why wasn't this taken into account then?
I don't have a
think
good
this is
answer
pretty
for you
strong
there.
language here. And I don't know, this ITE, I mean, Institute of Transportation Engineering.
Yes.
Is this something that's readily available?
Yes, there's a manual that has trip generation rates for just about anything you want to do. And that is kept in the city engineer's office, and he doesn't have a copy.
Do we know any of our other local jurisdictions have this type of thing, requirement?
I
on
would,
their-
I would be almost certain that more urban areas are doing it. I can't.
An urban
run off-
area, yes, I
I can't
understand
run
that.
off a list. But, we are a city, and we are urbanizing, and particularly around this area. And, we have essentially one viable way in and out of town, so traffic is a concern.
Right, well, it's a concern now, so it's kind
Yeah.
of like, let's shut the barn door
Well,
after the horses get out.
Better late than never, I guess,
Well-
but yeah.
Wally, who does the burden of this traffic study and the cost fall on? Is it
It would fall on the developer.
and then the developer has to come to the city to do it and get the equipment, or
Well,
they have to hire a
as-
firm to do
As
it?
part of an application, they would need to submit that. I've also got this language under conditional use permits and under rezonings as well. Originally, we had thought that we were going to limit it to conditional use permits and rezonings, but after further looking at it, we decided that we ought to apply this to by right uses as well. But the burden of it would fall on the developer.
What kind of cost are we looking at for a developer or a builder or whoever to do something like this? I mean, I'm just wondering if this is just something arbitrary that we put in because now we realize that, the traffic has become an issue, but it seems very, I don't know, very detailed, and it sounds like something very expensive, and it sounds like something that, I don't really understand this whole thing.
Well, if I
Yeah.
may, I think it's important to keep in mind that the requirement, when it is absolutely required, is for a use that'll generate 100 or more additional peak hour trips, and that's a lot of trips.
How many sites are we looking at that would
Well, it would
generate
depend
that?
on the type of development.
Right.
And the size of development and the use, and that's when you would defer to that ITE manual to determine how many trips are to be generated, increased trips. This is not an uncommon thing for basically any engineering or development firm. These numbers aren't very hard to calculate at all because that book literally gives them to you pretty much per use and almost for every use. I think the nature of development in this city is changing, as we all know. So it's incumbent upon us as city staff and to recognize where our code may be lacking, and that's why this is here. So moving forward with development or redevelopment, where it's clearly articulated, to developers what we need to see. And I think it's important to note now that we have what I'll call some loose language in the site plan ordinance where we could require traffic impact study. But this outlines, those requirements moving forward clearly.
So once the study is made, who determines whether it's acceptable or unacceptable? How is it applied?
Well, the traffic engineer, the city engineer, would get this information, and in consultation with myself and with the zoning administrator here, who is the city manager, would take a look at the impact, and for example, with the Goddard School, we're going to end up having to put in a turn lane. The city will end up paying for that. But if we have one of these studies in advance, and we make this requirement clear in advance, then again, that burden starts to go on the developer instead of the city having to pay for every single traffic improvement.
Well, maybe I'm missing something. I just don't see the criteria that you have to meet, or if it doesn't meet this criteria, then you have to do something different. It seems to just be a study, a report that would be submitted to the city,
Right.
but the developer or doesn't have any criteria as to what is acceptable and what is unacceptable.
Well, the criteria is B, where it says and lists and explains when a traffic study is required, and then, of course, 1 through 9 is the information that we're asking them to supply. And once that's submitted, like Wally said, it'll be reviewed by the city engineer and community development staff and the city manager, basically just to determine, they've provided the information we're asking for, what could they do on site to mitigate, the traffic impact, and what may we have to do as a city to, improve our infrastructure or update it.
So, Olivia, I understand what you're saying is because I read it the same way as you through that. And okay, so we've seen this report. There's a conclusion. That conclusion says, yeah, you're good. There's no impact, or yes, there's going to be a big impact, one or the other.
Right.
But this doesn't say that then the city has the right to take that information and say there may be additional stipulations that you have to add into your plan in order to be approved, or you're not approved. I think that part can be inferred, but it's not laid out that you as a developer may have additional requirements that you have to reach, like
Upon review of the city engineer.
right, that you may have to
think
put
that's
in
fair.
a turn lane because the traffic impact is too high and the city doesn't want to pay for a turn lane. So I think that that next step is what is missing from.
Yeah, I think it's too arbitrary to me.
We can, we could add
can
another
certainly address that.
section there that, basically says that, it's subject, this is to be in concert with review of a site plan. And, our process is we receive site plans, we review it, and we send comments to the developers for the things that we require that they may be missing or site improvements that should be made. So if we need to expand upon
And-
that, we can.
I guess my concern is that as a developer and it's laid out what the setbacks are, all the site requirements that have to be on that site plan, so that they know exactly what it is they need to do. Where here, there is just so open-ended, it's that there's no,
Well, there's really no way for us to articulate what improvements a developer would have to make on their end, on the site, or what city improvements we may have to make without seeing a plan.
No, but if we're going to put this condition in to say you have to do the study, you may have to do the study, I think we then have to say that the results may indicate further steps that need to be taken.
Yeah,
Because
but-
if not, they could say, hey, here's our report, we did it, we're going to do what we want.
Well, and, I think that's a valid point, and we could add a line in here
I think we should.
that says that clearly, the study will, obviously subject review and to the comments of, city staff, that everything is in conformance or necessary improvements are made.
This is probably a trivial question, but what is considered peak hours? I see that as kind of open-ended there too.
Think of it like for higher ground, we had the application in last month. The peak hours would be the times when the most children are dropped off, the busiest time of drop-offs and pickups.
So is it on an individual basis for the
Yeah, I
purpose
mean,
of the development? Is that what that is?
you would expect the peak hours for like a Starbucks to maybe be in the morning. Or, I mean, they'll explain that to us, as part of the proposal, but certainly peak hours, depending on what kind of business you're running, your peak hours may be a little bit different.
Right, because that seems like to me
Can you give me,
arbitrary too.
I'm just having I'm sorry, but I'm having a real hard time wrapping my head around all of this. You're saying that it's projected to generate 100 or more additional peak hour trips.
Right.
So let's say I want to put a subdivision in and it's going to be 50 lots, right? I mean, how many lots would this calculate to, this 100 hour? I'm trying to.
Well, we're really just doing it for commercial, but I can take your question and answer it. A typical residence will generate somewhere around the neighborhood of 10.5, a little
per
bit
home.
higher vehicles
Okay.
per home. So
Okay.
you multiply that times the number of
Okay,
homes.
10.5 for residential.
Right.
Okay.
I think it's like 10.86 or 10.6, something like that. But that's how we would do it. But again, we're not talking about residential subdivisions. We're talking about commercial usage. And that's a fairly high bar, 100 or more additional peak hour trips. I mean, that's a restaurant or a fast food place, cranking out a large number of people within a certain amount of time.
Let's say McDonald's.
Yeah.
How many peak hours would you estimate that McDonald's would generate? If somebody wanted to come in here and put a Sonic or whatever, how many hours would that typically generate?
Peak hour trips, that sort of depends. It's in the ITE manual. I can't give you an exact number because I have not looked that up. But I mean, you would think that their peak hours would be probably around lunchtime, maybe dinner. But I don't think Sonic does a whole lot in the morning. So maybe not so much in the morning. But I mean, I'm just kind of riffing off the top of my head here because I don't have that number for you. But there is a manual that's in the city engineer's office that has that.
You might want to put in that sentence, required for a new commercial development.
Well, it's this is included in the B1 district regulation part of the code.
Yes.
Yeah, it's commercial.
Do you have any idea what the cost of something like this is?
District regulation?
Curiosity.
I wish the city engineer was not on vacation this week because he could probably answer your question. I do not know.
I mean, are we looking at, again, to me, you're requiring something that to me is not definitive to somebody who's looking to do something because they're not sure, okay, I'm going to have this done, but I have no idea what how the city is going to respond to this, what the city is going to say, what the city is going to require, because we're not listing anything like that in terms of like turn lanes or additional lanes or whatever the case may be. So you're kind of going into this in the dark, and I'm wondering, what kind of monies are we looking at for that? I mean, it's just another layer of bureaucracy added to the development, and I'm not saying it's unimportant, because it is.
Yeah.
But I would like to know.
Well, I mean, number 8 does say recommended improvements, so of course they will be proposing some improvements to mitigate their traffic impact. It would be up to us, which, as Ms. Salak pointed out, we need to indicate there might be further steps based on what they propose. But as Thomas indicated earlier, this is not something that developers are not used to. They can plug in these numbers fairly quickly out of the trip generation manual because they know what that is. Just like with stormwater, they know what stormwater is too. So I mean, what they would charge, I don't know, but I mean.
Would our city engineer know that? Do you have any idea the cost that's associated with this type of traffic impact study that y'all are going to require now?
When I spoke with Sean last week, the city engineer, I asked the same question, and I think for the development, the school and the Starbucks and, the Taylor Dental, if we were to have tasked the developer there, and I'm not speaking for Sean, I'm just trying to
And what,
put together what, some of the conversation. I think for that, which is a pretty major development, as our busiest intersection, would have, I would say somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000. But, I mean,
and-
that's an incredible development.
one of the things that I asked for when I came into last meeting was, did they do a traffic impact study? Because I was concerned about it being in the location in the old bank, about with the proposal that we had heard about Starbucks, was how much traffic's gonna be coming out of there? Because traffic is already backing up on Little Florida Road right now. I fight it every morning. So how much traffic is coming out of there? So when I got to the meeting, I was pleasantly surprised that the applicant had given us a traffic impact study with the material that came forward with their peak trip times, that you could actually review that and say, okay, I feel better about the application, because that was one of my concerns last month, was how much traffic is this going to generate right there? And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the councilmen from the city council meeting was also concerned about that corridor and asked for not a traffic impact study,
Right.
but an area where, how much
Right.
traffic is generating
Yeah,
through that
Councilman,
area.
Councilman Hux.
And
Right.
they, to your point, for that use, for the private school, the trip generation analysis that they provided, they cranked that out in less than 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.
This is not a cumbersome requirement for developers. This is something they do routinely with basically any major development.
We kind of always had with business developments. It seems to me that most of the time we have had some, haven't required them to do this. But
Well-
they've always had some idea. I mean,
Right.
if it's a good sized business or development in how much traffic it's going to generate, because they know that's going to be a major.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this is not for
To
your,
get past.
it's not for the antique shop that's opening in an existing B1 establishment that's going to generate, 40 cars a day, maybe. This is aimed at big, new development and redevelopment.
And-
For
and I will-
larger contractors, this is not a surprise.
No.
And I will point out, we already have a requirement vaguely written, much more vague than this, in village commercial and general commercial, now, as well as the PUD districts. And we have some language in the site plan that, again, much more vague than this, but does give us the right to question traffic impacts and that sort of thing. What this is an attempt to do is really just, codify the provisions and tell the developer what we're looking for.
I have a suggestion about the definition of a qualified transportation engineering firm, because that seems pretty vague to me. Probably say they should be licensed, with the implication that the PE is doing the study.
Licensed and affixed by
Licensed
a
dash
seal.
qualified.
Yeah,
That's typical as well, but we should clarify that. That
Yeah.
would normally be done, but I put in the document here.
okay. We can do that. Thank you. Are we ready to move on, or we want to talk about that some more? I'm open to either way. C, at the bottom of your page, I actually did a typo. In the B1 district, construction of land to be used is not listed. It should be section 9-2A above. I got a little, I don't know, happy with copy and paste, I guess. Shall be permitted only after issuance of a conditional use permit, and basically what I said earlier in the meeting. In accordance with section 1-7 of this ordinance, if a proposed use cannot be made acceptable through the establishment of conditions, of course, we all know this, a conditional use permit request may be denied by city council. So, And the only other thing I've got in, on the next page, under B1, is under section 9-7D, required, and it should be a buffer zone, not a buffet zone. A required buffer zone shall utilize one of the below options and will be considered by the zoning administrator. The reason I put in zoning administrator there, of course, is that we do site plan or subdivision review administratively. Okay, so that's generally B1. B2 is on the next page, beginning with section 10-1. And that page is pretty clean. On the second page, we have the traffic impact study, the exact same language we just talked about. We will make the changes that were suggested. We're trying to, because we allow all conditional uses under section 1-7, we're trying to cull the conditional use section out. So really, in the B2 district, we say about the same thing we say in the B1 district. For uses not listed 10A above, that one's correct. Shall be permitted only after issuance of a conditional use permit in accordance with section 1-7. And those are all the conditional uses. Again, they were conditional uses before, they're conditional uses now, there's really no change. Okay, on the next page, under 10-8, it's just a small thing. I put in zoning administrator because review of site plans are administrative. So that's why that change is there. Under 10-11, visual obstructions at intersections, you're really looking at a radius when you look at a corner. The way they explain it with the straight lines is all great, but really what you're looking for is a radius of 10 feet from the intersection. So I changed distance with radius. I don't even think I put a planning note under that one.
Polly?
Yes.
I don't want to train of thought here, but I'm going back to the B2 general business where you've taken all of these different uses.
Yes.
Am I to understand that these uses are part of 10A?
No.
Why are all these stricken? Tell me that.
Because they're allowable by conditional use permit, and instead of listing them here, under 1-7, you could apply for any use anywhere at any time, regardless of what it is.
So all of these items required a conditional use permit, is that correct?
Yes.
That's the reason it's been.
And they would still require a conditional use permit.
Okay, this was just an example, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, just trying to cut out unnecessary language.
Okay.
Let me see here. I think every other change under B2 is pretty much just clarification. Again, site plans are administrative, so the other provisions in there are cleared out. Okay, so that leaves our next district as the Village Commercial District.
I have a question. This is maybe just editorial, but I see that the word council's been stricken here, and it looks like it leaves some strange language. The may.
We can strike that whole.
Yeah, we can, yeah. Yeah, I should have struck that whole thing.
Just editorial.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We need to get rid of that. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, Village Commercial. First page, Village Commercial, no real changes. Permitted uses in Village Commercial run the gamut, pretty much, but they are lower key than B2, certainly. And the idea is to create kind of a village concept. Conditional uses, I did the same thing I did with B2. Because they're allowed by conditional use permit anyway. I did keep the first part of that. The city council, of course, is the final determining body. Any conditional use, of course, the planning commission makes a recommendation. And all this is spelled out in 1-7 of the ordinance. But there were specific standards and criteria that were in our current ordinance, and I kept them. All traffic impacts shall be mitigated at the expense of the developer as deemed necessary by the city manager, his or her designation. Think about that for a minute. Might need to put zoning administrator in there.
Sorry, where are you at, Wally?
I'm at 11-3, conditional uses under village commercial.
Right, but you just made the comment to, what specific sentence were you speaking to? Or section?
This first one, the city council may approve a use as a conditional use in accordance with procedures specified in section 1-7 of this ordinance upon consideration of not limited to the following standards and criteria. All traffic impacts shall be mitigated at the expense of the developer as deemed necessary by the city manager or his or her designee. We may put zoning administrator in there. We've already said the city engineer reviews traffic impact statements, so maybe we need to add that. And that's something I'll get together with the city manager on, and we'll figure out what to do with that.
I recommend we use that same language earlier when we were talking about needing that language in the earlier sections.
Yeah.
'Cause I think that covers that.
I think you're absolutely right. Okay, so minimal visual functional conflict, anticipated noise and congestion. These are all things the council and you as the planning commission look at with any conditional use permit. But I kept it in village commercial because it is an important set of conditions. Village commercial has a fair amount of prohibited uses. You may remember, some of y'all will remember, when we did the tattoo parlor conditional use permit, and we couldn't do it in village commercial because it was explicitly forbidden, if I can spit that word out. So he went to B2 twice. Okay. I am turning the page from there, and I'm going to 11-6. I just wanted to point out a small change, but we've got a definition street class up now where we pretty much fade to the functional classification system that VDOT has, and they do have collector roadways and local streets, so I added that in there just to be clear. Under 11-7D, number 1, upon the presence of certain environmental features included but not limited to the Chesapeake Bay Resource Protection Area and their non-tidal elements, the city council may, upon the holding of a public hearing before, I just put planning commission first because the planning commission looks at it first and then it goes to city council. But it was just a flow correction. Okay, I don't have anything on this next page, 11-9 to 11-13, so I'm going to over one. And there's our friend traffic impact statement. This stuff in red, just for your edification, this was a comment that we have in the current ordinance, but again, I think G with the corrections that the planning commission has noted tonight makes it a little bit clearer. The rest of it was just Well, review of site plans are administrative, so I've made those changes. Development review process for the Village Commercial District. We cannot require that a person comes in for a development review process review. However, considering the outlay of funds somebody's going to put for development, they would be foolhardy not to participate. So what I've said is that prior to the submittal of any development application for property within the district, the developer and a property owner is highly encouraged to meet with and submit conceptual plans and elevation drawings.
Wally, where are you right now?
I'm on 11-16. I'm sorry. I wish I'd numbered these pages. I really do.
I think we skipped a couple. Did we talk about this one?
Well, this one was just the same thing that we had. Park and held reserve. That's a similar comment to what we made in B2 in the other districts. So I didn't clarify that, but except to say that review of site plans are administrative. But that's why I changed all that with the zoning administrator. All right. Yeah, section 11-19 signs on the next page. I took out the whole area of signs, and this is going to be moved, or it's our intention to move it all to Appendix D, which is the sign ordinance. And I actually attached a copy of the sign ordinance that would have these requirements in it. I just basically created a new section in the sign ordinance that signs applicable to the village community district. And that's in your packet as well, but,
So everything that you've stricken here is somewhere else?
It's
yeah,
just being
it's all going
moved to the sign
Going
ordinance.
to the sign ordinance. The idea is instead of looking at 3 different places for signage regulations, we'll have 2 sections. One will be dealing with signs in the public right-of-way, which is actually not even something that we cover. It's Chapter 6 of the City Code, and Appendix D, rather, will cover all sign requirements anywhere on private property, essentially. And I haven't changed any of the language. I've kept it exactly the same. Just did a wholesale move, I guess you would say. Okay, next district, next page, Article 11.1, GC General Commercial District. I gave a little resolution in the packet that is really from July 24th, 2017. And what I attempted to do after talking with the EDA, I took all of this to the EDA to talk to them, the Economic Development Authority, Mr. Callis, the zoning administrator, and staff. We figured out how we might be able to thread part of this resolution into general commercial. I can't believe it wasn't done already because this is a resolution passed by the city council, but nevertheless, we did try to do that. Where they talk about development should be of a gateway quality, I have put that in under 11.1-1-4 as an addition. Again, that's added from Resolution 4095, approved by the City Council July 2017. I did replace should with shall because, after all, the zoning administration, the zoning ordinance is a law. It's not a comprehensive plan. As important as a comprehensive plan is. And number 7, concerning the EDO Big Woods property zoned to the general commercial district, this is basically a straight copy from Resolution 4095. City should continue its efforts to develop the assemblage, further refine a specific development vision, public-private partnerships, and enhance the quality of life for citizens of Coastal to include the opportunity to remain in the city for jobs, shopping, dining, recreation, and/or entertainment.
Hey, Wally,
Yes.
can you help me understand, because I have limited knowledge since 2017 was before my time. So our general document is very broad, not naming things specific, and then we get into this section and it names the Big Wood properties, which, so is that its own district? Is that
No,
why
it's not
in
its own
here?
district. They're all
Specifically?
zoned to the general commercial zoning district, but they're all owned by the Economic Development Authority. And that's what this resolution pertained to.
So it doesn't fall in any of the other
Well,
categories.
I
it
mean,
falls.
obviously, we would, I don't think we have to necessarily say it's the EDO and Big Woods property. We could really say that for any property in general commercial, but I was just trying to be faithful to 4095. There's no reason why we could apply it to every development in general commercial.
I just was, we go from very broad, not naming specific businesses or owners or area or city-owned or private-owned, and then all of a
Right.
sudden it's talking about a very specific project. And I
Right.
just didn't know what the reasoning for was.
Well, the reasoning for it was that Resolution 4095 really addressed the EDA zoned properties. And that's really why I tried to make that distinction there. But again, I don't see any reason why we couldn't apply that even to any use in general commercial.
Why does the introduction sentence refer to the Big Woods Business District? What is that exactly?
That's directly from 4095.
Some comment there probably maybe generalize this more.
Well, that seems to be the direction we're going in. We could certainly generalize it more and just make it a requirement for the general commercial district, period. That's what I did with permitted uses, so I don't see any reason why we couldn't do it with this.
No, that resolution that's mentioned, that came about from a work session held by city council then on kind of what the vision was for those EDA-owned parcels. And so that's really all that's happening here is incorporating the language from the resolution and the ordinance, or in this section of the code, rather. So I think Wally said it at the beginning, probably something that should have been done already, but now making an effort to incorporate it as it should be.
There's just a lot of references to Big Woods, and it seems like this section should either be very specific to an area of Big Woods, or it should be general for the whole thing, I would think.
Right. Well, and that general commercial district, I wish I had a copy of the zoning map for you, but, it is pretty small, and it is, and, I'll say the other side of Victory and some of the properties back there, so contained to that side, that portion of the Big Woods, and I think that's why that language is there.
Right now it does reference that, but
Right.
if we make it more general, it could then be extended later to other areas.
Yeah, I
To
think
the
it
entire
could
general
be. Yeah.
commercial area.
Identifiable at that.
Right, and, it still is, but
Yeah.
the resolution that we keep referencing was really targeted at those specific EDA-owned parcels in that district to really piggyback on Commissioner Salak's comments. So that's part of why it reads how it does.
But really, it could read general commercial district, just like we have village commercial district, much
Yes.
like we have all the other districts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think for consistency's sake, that would put us all on the same page of what,
No, I
Each
would
district.
be supportive of that. I kind of struggled and went back and forth when I was doing this. So yeah. Do I have a general feeling from the planning commission that's the way to do it? Okay.
General.
That's the way we'll do it.
There's lots of references in there to Big Woods.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some of the Big Woods references are in there from the current zoning order. They're not just added from me. Anything in black,
Again, I have another question then, because
Okay.
this seems like it's referring to something very specific, not general, and I think we should either make it very general or we should make it very
Right.
specific. And I think the zoning map takes care of the specific part, right? Because
Right.
that
Yes.
defines what the boundaries are.
I think that's a good point, and the reason why we're being specific here and not general is because this stemmed from, a council resolution talking about EDA-owned properties. So, we don't have that situation, in the B2 district per se,
Right.
where the EDA owns a large portion of it, and, there's some innate city interest because it's owned by the EDA. But, in that general commercial district where we have those EDA-owned parcels, that's why we kind of need to separate the two to say, here are the general regulations in the general commercial district that is not EDA-owned, but here's the vision for those EDA-owned parcels that they just happen to be zoned general commercial.
How are we coming along here? We are past 7.
We are.
believe it or not, we're just about done.
Okay.
So continuing with this, I'm still not sure I have a clear direction. I hear what you're saying.
It sounds
Yeah.
like we're going to get rid of all the references to Big Woods, if I'm reading the room right.
Thomas's last comment was a little bit in contradiction to that, I think.
Well, I know,
Maybe it
I know,
makes
we,
sense.
we're
Yeah.
we've sort of said two things in the
Right.
last 5 minutes, which is really nobody's fault because this whole thing's a jumble.
No, I'm just trying to help paint the picture here, the background of, of this thing.
Which I think you're doing a
The
really good job.
idea that this part is supposed to pertain to very specific properties, then I think it's okay to keep it specific. And it sounds like that is the intent.
That is the intent.
Well, then, do we just need to, does it have to be renamed of General Commercial District EDA or EDA General Commercial District? Like,
I think we just include it in there and just don't worry about going specifically to this resolution.
I just feel it's a little
I
bit
think
of
we
like
just
apples
thread.
and oranges right
Yeah,
now.
we just thread it together. We just thread it together. That way we're not, because it is kind of like creating two zoning districts when you point those two things out separately. And there is room for confusion. So why don't we just eliminate the confusion and just put them all together?
So you're going to eliminate EDA as head?
Well, we'll eliminate the EDA zoned Big Woods properties. We'll get rid of that sort of introductory sentence.
Because there are a lot of property owners in Big Woods besides EDA too.
Well, there are.
But they would fall under the General Commercial?
Yeah, if they're zoned general commercial, they would fall under general commercial, absolutely. There is a little area of R&D zoned.
So the EDA should fall under the same rules and regulations as anyone else.
Well, I think that's pretty consistent with how the city has generally looked at things. Yes, absolutely.
So what is your proposal? Are we going to have an opportunity to review this again? Because that was a lot of information to digest, particularly reading it from a computer screen rather than having a hard copy in front of
Sure.
me, which I did not print.
Well, I'll obviously make all the corrections that we've talked about tonight and let y'all, the planning commission, look at it again.
So we will have an opportunity to review it again or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Permitted uses, I did add 4 permitted uses on the next page, 11.1-2. And these are taken, this applies to all of general commercial, but it's taken from the resolution 4095. So it did thread it all the way through there. Like I did with everything else, I did it a little bit different in general commercial because it seems like all uses permitted in B2 district subject to conditions in B2 district. This is 11-2.1-25. are permitted with a conditional use permit. And then we have a rather long list down there of stuff with conditional use permit. I did keep it here because if you look at the permitted use in B2 and what they say here is accepted, it's just easier to do it this way. So,
So these have to have a conditional use permit that you have?
yes, these will have to have a conditional use permit.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to have to leave at 7:15. I have a hard stop. I thought we'd be on to the normal
We're done.
agenda.
We can
This
hop
is-
into.
We
the-
could be here for
Right.
about 2-3 more hours.
Well, we can hop into the regular session and pick back up at the general commercial district language the next meeting.
Yeah,
Good idea.
absolutely. I think that's enough for tonight.
And you're live if you're ready to
Okay,
start the
yes, we
regular
are.
session.
We're ready. We'll call this meeting of the Pocosin Planning Commission, the regular session meeting for Monday, September 18th, to order. And with that, we will, at this time, stand and give the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Okay, if you will join me, if you would so desire to do so, we will say the Lord's Prayer at this time. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Now we'll stand and give the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to our flag, the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay, with that, we will go to the first item here, the approval of the minutes for the regular session, August 21st, 2023. I noticed one small thing, but I think it has been corrected because it said, I think on when I looked at it online, it was Commissioner, Acting Commissioner
Wait.
in here somewhere, and it was Geisinger.
We
It's
changed
been corrected. Good, I checked it. It's corrected. Anyone have a motion to accept these minutes as written?
I will make a recommendation. We accept these as written.
Thank you, Thomas. Any second?
Motion.
Okay, we'll move on and take the vote on that.
Commissioner Stevens?
Aye.
Commissioner Griebel?
Abstain.
Commissioner Salek?
Abstain.
Commissioner Schott?
Yay.
Commissioner Geisinger? Commissioner Hirsch?
Aye.
Chairwoman Shriver?
Aye.
The minutes pass.
Okay, thanks. Next thing is the audience for visitors. We will open this at this time for anyone who, has something they would like to address the Planning Commission about. And I don't know as Mr. Mullins wants to address us, he's in the audience, but if he doesn't, we're going to close this and we'll move right on to the new business, which is the election of officers. We put this off meeting before last because we didn't have many people here. We do usually do it in July, but not really. We always put it off because we seem like we delay it, but now we're into September, and I have a full crew here tonight, so we're going to take this up. Election of officers, because we've had the commissioner, the chairperson, Angie, left us, so I was co-chair. I have stepped up to the plate to be chairman. I was chairman before Angie, so I had the ability to run the meetings and conduct the meetings. But and also, last meeting, I could not attend. I had an appointment in Richmond, and graciously, Heather filled in for me, and I understand she did a great job. So tonight, we have to decide who we want.
I'd
Anyone
like to
have
nominate Bonnie Shriver as chairman.
anything? Okay. Who are we going, do you want to nominate, I think sometimes we have nominated both
If,
and passed it.
if the nominee is not going to abstain, where if you combine it, then I think that's okay. But if the
You wanna do it
nomin-
separately?
I would recommend doing the
Separately.
clerk, vice chair, and chair
All right,
separately.
we'll do that. All right. I'm agreeable to accepting the nomination for another year. After that, I will not be probably accepted. So I would say in light of that, pick someone co-chair that you would like to.
We need to, was there a second?
If you do a second, I say, if you nominate me, I'll do it for one more time. If somebody seconds it, if they don't, I'll be happy to step aside.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, I got
All right, so we have a motion on the chair.
Commissioner Stevens?
Aye.
Commissioner Grievel?
Aye.
Commissioner Sauer?
Aye.
Commissioner Schott?
Aye.
Commissioner Geisinger?
Aye.
Chairwoman Shriver?
Aye.
The motion passes.
That was it, wasn't it?
I think you were getting it whether you liked it or not.
I think
Now, the vice chair.
so. Vice Chair, anyone have a
I'd like to nominate
Nomination.
Heather Schott.
Yeah.
I
I'll
understand
second
she
that.
did an amazing job last time.
I'll second that.
I think
Oh,
we,
sorry, who was,
we can move on and take the vote, then if got
Singer.
a motion and a second.
Motion and a second.
okay, all right. You guys went too fast for me. Sorry. Commissioner Stevens?
Aye.
Commissioner Grievel?
Aye.
Commissioner Salek?
Aye.
Commissioner Schott?
Aye.
Sorry. Commissioner Geisinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Aye.
Chairwoman Shriver?
Aye.
Passes.
We didn't even ask her if she was willing. She seemed like she was.
Well, she voted aye.
Move quick enough, she won't get a chance to think
Okay,
about it.
I think that'll work out well. Heather is she familiar with running meetings, and she'll be a good one to do that. And by the time I'm not willing to be chairperson, I think she'll be fine.
I appreciate
She'll
that.
be ready to fly.
I appreciate
That sounds
that.
like a good thing.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
Madam Chair.
I don't think we have, we
We
have
do
to do
need
the
to
clerk.
appoint the clerk.
Last thing, do we have a motion for a clerk? We don't have one? Uh-oh, so what do we do? What do we do?
Staff recommendation from the side of the dais.
We're all for it.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sure it was already a done deal.
Nomination for the clerk? Do I have
I nominate Laura to be the clerk.
have a second?
Oh, I definitely second that one.
All right, let's take a vote on it.
All right. Commissioner Stevens?
Aye.
I heard no. Commissioner Grievel?
Aye.
Commissioner Salek?
Aye.
Commissioner Schott?
Aye.
Commissioner Geisinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Aye.
Chairwoman Shriver?
Aye.
Really passes.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? We have a full crew now, so we're good to go for the next year. Okay, good. All right, and how about communications and correspondence? Do you have anything for us, Tom?
I
Or
do.
Wally?
We will be meeting on October, I believe it's the 16th, is the third Monday. And we will, I think maybe a 6:30 work
I
session?
think 6:30 will work fine.
Let's pencil in a 6:30 work session to continue the discussion. It won't take long to go over the edits you all recommended. And then there wasn't much,
We're all long-winded. I mean, you might want
well,
6:15 again?
but that's up to you.
Let's do 6:15 again. Yeah, let's do that
Oh,
again.
I'm at 6:15.
And then, I don't anticipate, having a public hearing. But I hope to have, in front of you again, the CCIP. Some of you will remember that. It seems like we just did it. But we kind of got off our schedule for the CCIP during COVID, so we're trying to get back ahead of it. So I hope to have that in front of you next month. Other than that, I think it will be much like tonight, a 6:15 work session and probably a fairly short regular session if we have a regular session. That's all I got.
Okay, Wally?
Just wanted to let the commission know that the Legacy Master Plan Amendment did get approved by the City Council, as did the Higher Ground School. And Ike Martin, if you remember him, he got the